Boxing champions Terence "Bud" Crawford and Gervonta "Tank" Davis have developed a rivalry that goes far beyond their usual verbal scuffles on social media. With allegations, threats, and insults going back and forth between the two, what began as a disagreement over invitations to prominent boxing events has swiftly escalated into a full-fledged rivalry. This is about legacy, money, and establishing who is really the best boxer in the world. It's not just about boasting rights. It all began when unbeaten lightweight champion Tank Davis complained that he was not invited to the coveted Ring magazine gala. Davis felt betrayed by the noteworthy event, which honors the greatest boxing moments of the previous year. He voiced his complaints on social media, criticizing the gathering and a few of its well-known guests. However, his posts were promptly removed, but the harm had already been done. The internet never forgets, as is to be expected, and screenshots of Davis's remarks quickly circulated. The undisputed welterweight champion Terence Crawford took offense at this. Crawford, who was well known for his witty remarks and unwavering self-assurance, saw the chance to retaliate. Given that both Davis and Crawford did not attend the event, he pointed out that Davis's irritation was unjustified. Crawford wasn't merely making fun of Davis, though, because he was furious about a party invitation. He attacked Davis's career in general and his recent pay-per-view fights in particular. Crawford implied that Davis cared more about money than legacy, which obviously resonated with the Baltimore native. As a result of this back and forth, the two fighters got into a furious dispute that swiftly descended into a verbal brawl. In response, Davis retorted that he was paid more than Crawford. Crawford responded sharply to this comment, pointing out that his boxing history was far more significant than Tank's and emphasizing that Davis was more interested in making money than facing actual obstacles in the sport. It was evident that the conflicts between Davis and Crawford were intensely personal as well as professional. When Tank Davis passed what many believed to be an out-of-bounds boundary, things took a more sinister turn. In a since-deleted post, he poked fun of the fighter's wife and kids and made disparaging remarks about Crawford's family. Many boxing observers were outraged by Davis's disrespectful post, which was swiftly recovered by both fans and detractors. Supporters chastised Davis for entangling Crawford's family in a boxing dispute that had not yet been resolved. The uproar was further heightened by Davis's decision to remove the post. He was swiftly branded insecure by his detractors, who pointed out his propensity to criticize people and then retreat behind removed posts when the situation became too heated. But Davis refused to back down in the face of the criticism. He persisted in making fun of Crawford, claiming that his own financial success outweighed Crawford's boxing accomplishments. For Davis, winning appeared to be more about the cash and the notoriety than it was about the titles and honors. But Crawford would have none of it. In response to Davis's assertions, he emphasized that because of his limited exposure to major bouts, Davis had not yet received the kind of paychecks that Crawford had received over his career. Crawford's answer highlighted the disparity in their professional paths. Crawford had established himself as one of the finest pound-for-pound fighters in boxing, while Davis was a rising star in the sport. When Davis began asserting that Crawford had never encountered the type of competition that he, Tank Davis, had, the tension between the two grew. He maintained that Davis had been a dominant force in the lightweight division for years, whereas Crawford had only recently started to establish himself. But many boxing fans and commentators were shocked by this claim. While Davis's record was generally regarded as less remarkable, with many of his opponents being considered lower-tier fighters, Crawford had been facing elite opponents like Shawn Porter and Errol Spence Jr. for years. The two boxers were no longer the only ones involved in the rivalry. As each team vehemently defended its champion, fans of Davis and Crawford started to comment on the rivalry. Given his tremendous punching power and rising stardom, which make him one of the sport's most marketable boxers, several fans contended that Davis was the real attraction in boxing. Others believed that, despite pay-per-view figures, Crawford was the superior boxer because to his lengthy reign at welterweight and his most recent victory against Spence. Despite the back and forth, it became more and more obvious that a confrontation between the two was unlikely to happen anytime soon. Davis had his sights set on a future battle with Lamont Roach Jr., while Crawford, who had recently advanced to junior middleweight, was intent on landing a mega fight with Canelo Alvarez. Given the weight disparity and the fact that Crawford had already established himself at welterweight, a battle between the two seemed less likely now that he was competing at a higher weight class. Although a physical altercation between Davis and Crawford appeared unlikely, the verbal battle raged on. Never one to back down from a challenge, Davis persisted in inciting Crawford by ridiculing his recent bouts and questioning the validity of Crawford's contest. He even went so far as to claim that Crawford's legacy was based more on financial gain than on real in-ring accomplishments. Conversely, Crawford seemed unfazed by the jeers. He brushed off Davis's remarks, saying he was more concerned about proving himself against the greatest opponents. On social media, he made it apparent that he wasn't worried about Davis's antics, stressing that getting the biggest fights of his career was his first focus. One last exchange of words brought the back and forth between these two champions to a head and elevated the situation to a new level. Many supporters felt that Davis had crossed a line when he made fun of Crawford's wife and kids in a post that many would later view as a low blow. Davis's quickly removed post merely fueled the flames, with many fans and commentators accusing him of acting insecurely. Questions concerning the use of social media in contemporary boxing rivalries were also brought up by Davis's fight with Crawford. The drama surrounding these two combatants has been heightened by the platform, which has turned into a public arena for athletes to resolve their disputes. Although verbal sparring and trash talk between boxers are commonplace, the intensity of personal insults and the ease with which fighters may now communicate with their supporters and opponents have altered the nature of the sport. The stakes are higher than ever as what might have been a private feud is now being played out for the world to witness. The fact that Davis and Crawford are both among the world's top fighters is evident despite all the controversy. There is no doubting their individual legacies and skills, even though they may disagree on who is a better boxer or who has made more money. In the welterweight class, Crawford has repeatedly shown his mettle, and Davis has emerged as one of the sport's most promising up-and-coming talents. Even though they may never face off in the ring, their rivalry has surely captured the attention of boxing fans worldwide. The question of who has earned more money during their careers is probably going to remain up for debate. Mike Coppinger of ESPN claims that Crawford's payouts from his fights against Spence and Madoff have been significantly greater than Davis's from his most recent bouts. However, Davis has become one of the sport's most marketable athletes due to his enormous popularity, particularly among younger fans. Even if his earnings aren't usually as high as Crawford's, his social media following and pay-per-view sales have enabled him to command sizable payouts. The ability to attract viewers and sell fights is ultimately where boxers make their big money. While Crawford has a devoted fan base because to his reputation as one of the world's top pound-for-pound boxers, Davis has become a fan favorite due to his spectacular knockout power and growing popularity. Both combatants, though, have different routes to go. While Davis is getting ready for his next bout with Lamont Roach Jr., Crawford is seeking a mega fight with Canelo Alvarez, which could make him one of the most paid boxers in the sport. The world will have to wait and see what these two boxers' futures bring for the time being. Their rivalry has already had a lasting impact on boxing, regardless of whether they ever face off in the ring. The drama will continue to be fueled by verbal sparring, personal insults, and social media skirmishes, keeping fans on the edge of their seats and guaranteeing that the animosity between Davis and Crawford will be a hot issue for years to come.